I'm Cassandra and this is my Bingo-athon wrap up. I tried to do a vlog for the Bingo-athon. It's the first readathon where I felt like, oh, I should do a vlog, just like all the cool kids do. But I filmed my first clip on Monday and my second clip on Wednesday, and then I haven't filmed anything since then. I have had a rough week, especially the last half of the week, when it comes to my health, basically. I thought that that vlog sounded, with just those two clips, and if I were to film like a wrap-up clip today, it sounded kind of boring. So I decided to do a proper wrap-up instead, just like I did with Fantasy-athon and the Owl's Magical Readathon. Originally, when I did my Bingo-athon TBR, I planned to read 5 books, and that was including Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta, which is the group book for Bingo-athon. But that book hadn't arrived yet, and I said that it was on its way and it was supposed to show up at the latest on Friday, but on Wednesday it still hadn't shipped, so I cancelled that book. It was part of a bigger order, so I just cancelled Once and Future because I realized if I wasn't gonna get it in time, I wasn't interested in reading it. Annoyingly, on Thursday I then got an update saying, oh, some of the books, because the reason why it hadn't shipped is simply because some of the books in that order hadn't arrived at the warehouse yet. So on Thursday they said, oh, some of the books haven't arrived at the warehouse, so we're gonna ship it in separate boxes without any extra cost to me. So they have sent out 2 of the books. The order is 4 books. They've sent out 2 of the books. One was shipped out, I think, Wednesday evening, and one was shipped out Thursday morning. So now I've got books coming my way, not Once and Future, thank God, but just like in separate packages. And I was just thinking, like, if you had just done this earlier in the week, I could have gotten Once and Future. I did watch the Bingo-athon live stream, and Ola and Cody were saying that they didn't like Once and Future. And I'd also heard from Maddie from the Book Pusher, that's her channel, that she also didn't like it. So I think I might have lucked out not getting Once and Future in time, because I feel like I am currently not buying books. Like, I ordered, the book order I have is, half of it is my partner's books and half of it was Once and Future, and then a second book that I really want to buy. So I'm quite glad that I didn't spend any money on a book that I probably wasn't gonna like in the first place. So, you know, sometimes life works out. Anyway, let's get to what I did read. In my TBR, I said that I was gonna read Once and Future and then 4 more books. At the end of the week, I have read 6 books. These are the books that I read. And let's talk about them in order of how big they are. The smallest book is If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. It is a tiny book, it's 202 pages long. I was thinking that it was pretty cute. I found it, I was intrigued by the premise, which is that someone is given a diagnosis and he's gonna die within a couple of days, maybe a week. The devil shows up and says, hey, if you give up one thing every day, I'll give you another day to live. He starts off giving up one thing that he didn't really think that he needed, and then on the second day he gave up something that meant more to him, and then this goes on for a couple of days, and then he's asked to give up cats. But it's mainly about what is worth living for, like what is our life worth, what is worth giving up in order to continue to live, and what is not worth giving up. Like what makes life worth living, perhaps the better way of phrasing that. But it's also about relationships and sort of feeling like that you don't have unfinished business in your life before you die. Yeah, it was kind of cute. I really like the premise. I quite like the character of the devil. I thought that Genki did a pretty good job with that character, but I think it was supposed to be funny and I didn't find it funny, and I think it might just be a difference in humor, like Japanese humor contra Swedish humor. It didn't really jive with me. I understand why people like it because I felt like a good book, but I wasn't overly fond of it. I think I gave it 3 stars just because for me it felt sort of meh. The second smallest book is Girls Just Want to Have Fundamental Rights, and this is 240 pages roughly. It is by Jessica Hallbeck. She does art in the subway in Stockholm, and they are sort of thought-provoking. She takes ads and she turns them around and writes on them, and then they are thought-provoking quotes that has to do with feminism because she's a feminist. I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was thought-provoking. I'm not a great fan. I think some things hit me harder than other things. Nothing was surprising. I did feel like she did a very good job getting the points across in small amount of space, small amount of words. It was just an all-around good book. I think I want to lend it out to my other feminist friends for them to sort of take heart. Yeah, I just like it. I gave it 4 stars. It was good. So the order I'm going in is not technically number of pages, I realized. It is the size of the book, like how wide it is or how tall it is. Next book is a book by Fredrik Backman. It's My Grandma Told Me to Tell You She's Sorry, but it's in Swedish. I have read 3 Fredrik Backman books previously. I really like his books. I think that they have a similar theme, similar writing style. Well, not similar theme, but similar exposition is perhaps the word. I now know when to expect for the reveals to happen. I know when I'm gonna get a gut punch. I know when I'm gonna cry. I know when I'm gonna laugh. But I really like his story structure. I think that it works very well. He has a remarkable ability of making you cry, your eyes out one page, and then the next page you're laughing. More so, I think, with A Man Called Ove, but this was also very good. I am very glad I read it. I read pretty much all of it on Saturday, so on the final day. It was so difficult to put it down. I had such a major headache once I finished it because I had cried so much. It happens with all Fredrik Backman books, and this time I was prepared. I had water, I was drinking water while I was reading, but I need to get even better. I need to like warm up to read one of his books because they make me cry so much. Maybe I should tell you what it's about. It is the story of a 7-year-old girl who her grandma is like her superhero, and her grandma is like weird, like crazy, not in like a mental health way, but just in sort of like the things she does. She does things, she acts crazy, and the grandma sadly passes away, and she is given a treasure hunt by the grandma, where she is tasked of giving letters which are apology letters from the grandma to different people, where the grandma apologizes for instance, being mean or complaining a lot or not respecting space or boundaries, or minor things she's done, but also bigger things like, I'm sorry that I didn't live up to what I could have been to you, or I'm sorry for this, or I'm sorry for that. It was really good. I gave it 4 stars because I really liked it. Like I said, I cried so much. Next book is Stormcaster, and this is a book that I have a lot to say about. It's the 3rd book in the Shattered Realm series, which is a continuation of the 7 Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chima. It ties a lot of things together of what's happened in the first 2 books, but it also gives backstories to some of the characters. What I would say the main character, like the character that is the Stormcaster, you're given his backstory, and he was one of my favorite characters from the earlier 2 books, but in this book I was feeling like just a child. And these are YA, so it's understandable that I feel that way. I think that with the 7 Realms books, I was looking at it through rose-tinted glasses because I was so in love with the central pairing with the two main characters that I ignored plot convenience and shoddy writing. I thought that that worked well because I didn't care about the plot. In these books, I don't care about the characters, so I care about the plot, and then all the plot conveniences really annoy me, and how it's written annoys me, and how the characters are acting annoys me. And the most annoying thing is that when I try my darndest of connecting to a character, I'm given 6 other characters which are given a perspective in these 530 pages. And I just feel like we're given the same information and they have to convince each other that they're trustworthy by giving information that I already know about because I read the 2 previous books. And it just drives me crazy. So I gave it 3 stars. I wanna continue on, I wanna read the 4th and the final book because I own the final book, and then I'm gonna make a judgment on like this continuation series as a whole, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh, so annoying. The next book. I both have a lot to say and I have very little to say. I loved it, you should read it. It's called The Atomic Weight of Love. It's about a woman who goes to university in the 1940s. She becomes involved with a professor at the university who is involved in the war effort, and he goes off and he does this secret project which you find out is the atomic bomb. That's why it's called The Atomic Weight of Love, because he is off doing this at a secret location in, I think, New Mexico. Once the war is over and they're finished with the atomic bomb, the professor is asked to stay on and try to work out a use for the atomic bomb research in peacetime. So he says to his then wife, because they get married during the war, and says like, oh, you should come here and live with me because we haven't been able to live together yet because he's been off doing this secret thing. And she is like, well, I want to go on and do a master's in ornithology, is that what it's called? Like studying birds. And he's like, well, I want you to come here. So she goes, well, I'll give it a year. And then 1 year turns into 30 years. And it's about what she gives up and what women of that generation gave up in order to be with their husband and in order to have a family life and in order to just what they were supposed to do. It was so good. I read pretty much all of it in one day because I loved it a lot. I didn't want to put it down. And it was everything that I thought it was going to be and more. Like, I was afraid that it wasn't going to live up to my expectations, and then it lived up to my expectations. And there were like twists and turns that I was like, oh, I know where we're going now. And then it like turned. And then I was like, oh, well, I know what's going to happen now. And then it turned again. And it was just really good. It was well written. The story was good. It had such a perfect amount of like calm, collected sort of, you know, keep calm and carry on energy, but also a bit of a rebellious spirit. Yeah, it was really good. So I highly recommend it. I gave this 4 stars. But I'm thinking maybe I should give it a 5. I haven't decided yet. I think I need to actively think about it a little bit. I'm not sure, but I loved it that much. I give very few books 5 stars, but this might just be a 5 stars. And the final book, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I had high expectations, and going in and reading the beginning, because it's divided into 3 parts. I read the first part and I was like, oh, it's living up to my expectations. There are some problems with the writing, but I can live with that. I read the second part and I was like, oh my god, it's amazing, I have to finish it. So I really like pushed on and I finished the last part on the same day that I read the second part. And I was crying because it's the kind of book where you cry, and I was feeling it and I was so immersed in the world and I loved it the whole way through. And then when it finished and I put it down and I could sort of look at the book as a whole, I immediately downgraded it because I was reading it and I was like, oh, is this gonna be a 5-star book? This is not a 5 stars. I was thinking while I was reading it, like, oh, this is definitely a 4-star, definitely a 4-star, definitely a 4-star. Might be a 5-star, but I think some of the writing is not that great, so it will probably be a 4-star. And then I finished it and I was like, this is like a 3-star. It might even be lower than a 3-star. I very rarely give books lower than a 3-star, but I felt the writing ruined this. It's about a family, a mother, a father, and a child, a 13-year-old child at the beginning of the book, who decide to up and leave and go to Alaska. The father is a war veteran from the Vietnam War. He was a prisoner of war for a number of years, and his best friend in the war, Bo, died in the war. And when he comes home, he has pretty severe PTSD. He has trouble keeping a job, he's very easily irritated, and the mother is just saying like, oh, like, I just want him to be able to go back to what he was before. And the daughter can't really remember what the father was like before because she was too young. But he has a real hard time readjusting to society. So when it comes out that Bo has left them a house out in like the middle of nowhere in Alaska, he's like, this is our chance, let's up and leave and let's just go. So they collect all the money that they have, they buy like a Volkswagen bus, because this is the 70s, and they go up into Alaska. In Alaska, they very quickly realize like they have to get tough quick, because the Alaskan winters are really rough. Everyone they meet there, like all their neighbors in this tiny community, are saying like, you need to get tough because you won't survive otherwise. Which is the bad part. The good part is like there's a really close-knit society or community, so they're all there to help each other. Bad weather and like isolation really triggers the PTSD of the father. And this is a minor spoiler because it's not revealed at the very beginning of the book, but it's revealed quite quickly and is central to the rest of the plot. The father is abusive, and is abusive to the mother. But the mother loves the father, and they are like so tight, and they have quite an unhealthy relationship. They refer to each other as they are like heroin to each other, which is like a Twilight callback. And then the daughter deals with that. It was really good. I really liked the story. What I didn't like was the fact that I felt like a lot of things that I wanted to get out of it sort of skipped over. For instance, I felt like they spent some time in the beginning of the book talking about, how they had to build these structures to be able to store food so that the bears couldn't get them. They talked about different kinds of meat that they could get, it's bear season and it's deer season. But I had expected a lot more of that. I had expected a lot more of them talking about what exactly it took for them to survive. So that was just something that I was like, oh well, that's what I would have wanted, but I understand, you don't always get what you want. But there were some fan fiction-esque events that happened. Like, I can't spoil you for what those things are, but it is that kind of thing where they spend like a chapter or a couple of chapters talking about like, it's important that we don't do this, or that prepare for this thing, and then they prepare for that thing, and then they don't do the thing that they prepared for, and then it all goes to shit in like a really dramatic way. And then that same dramatic thing happens again later in the book, and I was like, but I've already spent all my emotional energy in like, oh shit, that was such a bummer that really dramatic thing happened, and then it happens again in a similar circumstance, and I was just like, is this all you got? Is this all you know how to write? So I gave it a 3, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Like, this was such a weird hit and a miss. Feels like such a weird place to leave off also, talking about those books. But let's also talk about which book fit which prompt. So the Bingo-athon board, I didn't managed to hit the central middle square, the Once and Future square, which is a bummer because that means that I'm missing out on 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 bingos, but I managed to hit all the other squares, or I just like I forced the books into the prompts so that I hit all the surrounding squares. So that's 4 bingos at least. So the first one, anticipated book, is The Atomic Weight of Love. I explained why in my TBR. I was eyeing this in a bookstore and my friend said that she was also intrigued by this. So she was gonna buy it and then send it to me once she had read it. And she did, and now I have it, and now I've read it. That's why it's an anticipated book. Second prompt, 5-star prediction, definitely a Fredrik Backman book. I have loved everything that I've read by him, so I just knew I was gonna love it when I picked it up. Favorite genre? If Cats Disappear from the World. It's mainly because this is an adult book and I read a lot of adult. It's just adult fiction. It's a bit of like magical realism, I guess. I quite like fantasy. It fits the prompt. With pink and or blue cover, this is the one I have. It has a little bit of pink on the cover. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I didn't have anything else that had. I mean, I guess this is blue on the cover, but this one has to fit a prompt as well, so. And it's like black and white except for the pink, so. I'm saying it fits. It's like what Haley in Bookland says. There's no readathon police. When it comes to diverse representation, you have a gay character in this one. When it comes to cover buy, this is definitely a cover buy. I saw the cover, I loved it. My friend was also intrigued by the cover. That's why she bought it, but I was the one who found it because of the cover. New to me author, Kristen Hanna. I have heard that The Nightingale is great. I have also, like, this one won the Goodreads Choice Award for historical fiction. So I knew that she is a well-liked author. So this was me trying her out. I'm not sure if I want to read The Nightingale. I don't think I will. But like if I saw it at the library, I might pick it up. If I see it in like a bargain bin, I'll probably pick it up. This might just be a one-off. When it comes to very old or very new on the TBR, I picked this one because it is not the newest thing on my TBR. The newest thing is definitely Deathcaster, which is the 4th book in the Shadow Realm series. This is second newest, and it's the one that I felt the most pressure to read on my TBR. As in like, oh, I have it now, I want to read it as soon as possible. So that's that readathon. The hosts were saying like, oh, it's quite chill and quite relaxed. And I just went ahead and read 6 books. Let me actually count how many pages that is. 2,196 pages. Yeah, I am very happy about that number because of like achievement. But I am most happy about the fact that I have gotten 6 books off of my TBR. I was thinking I'm gonna do a video talking about like my next reading challenge, which is to clear out my TBR, and that's 5 books already done, so like yay me. I am very glad that I participated in this Bingo-athon. Like I am a completionist in that I wanted to finish all the squares, and I am quite bummed that I didn't get to finish the Once and Future center square, but then again, it hasn't been getting great reviews, so I don't think I'm missing out really. I'm just bummed about not getting to tick all the boxes. I hope that if you've also participated in Bingo-athon, I hope that you've also had a really good time with Bingo-athon. I sure have. I thought that the prompts worked quite well with the books that I had. I've had a pretty good time with this readathon. I pushed myself to read a lot of books, and I did read a lot of books. And I'm just happy to get books off of my TBR, and I think that's what a lot of people use readathons for, so it worked for me. If you have, like usual, if you have read any of these books, please feel free to talk about them in the comments down below. I am eager to hear what you think. If you saw the same things as I saw with Great Alone, please talk about that, because like I want to talk about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.